Did you know hospitals charge $500 for a single aspirin? Not a bottle, not a week's supply. One pill, $500. The exact same aspirin you can buy at Walmart for $2. Yeah, in the hospital, it costs more than your car payment. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you walked out of a doctor's office and thought, wow, that was worth every penny? Seriously, ever feel that? Because for most people, the answer is never. Because most people don't leave feeling better. They leave feeling robbed. Here's how it usually goes. You wait 42 minutes in a freezing lobby, fill out paperwork that nobody reads, sit on crinkly paper in your underwear while a tired doctor clicks boxes on a screen. Then you leave with a vague diagnosis, a prescription you don't want, and a bill that makes your stomach turn. Let's break it down. $289 to be told it's just a virus. $117 for a test you didn't ask for. $94 for a prescription that costs $2 to make. That's $500. For nothing more than confusion, frustration, and a maybe it'll go away diagnosis. $500 for aspirin. And we're supposed to be grateful for this? Grateful to get nickel and dimed every time someone in the house sneezes? Grateful to hand over our paychecks just to be told it's probably viral? Grateful for a system that seems to cost more every year, but somehow helps you less? And here's the part nobody talks about. This isn't healthcare. It's a slow, quiet heist. And it's working exactly as intended. And there's a reason it feels like you're bleeding money, but never actually getting better. It's not your fault. It's not your immune system. It's not your genetics or your age or your stress levels. It's the damn system. Because the system wasn't designed to heal you. It was designed to use you. To milk your pain like a cash cow. To slap a price tag on your suffering, shove you into a maze of codes, claims, and copays, and keep you coming back just sick enough to keep paying. That's why there's a drug for everything, and a cure for nothing. That's why your side effects need more drugs, why your treatment becomes a subscription, why you feel like you're stuck in a loop of expensive solutions that barely hold you together. Because a healed patient is a lost customer. And yet, one thing that could actually change everything for you, it's not sitting in your medicine cabinet, it's not behind the pharmacy counter, and it sure isn't being advertised on your screen 27 times a day with smiling actors and mile-long side effects. No. The real answers? They're older than prescriptions, older than insurance, older than the system that keeps bleeding you dry. They're the things your grandparents knew before healthcare became a business. The things battlefield medics once carried when there were no hospitals, no backup, and no room for error. Simple, powerful, natural solutions. Passed down quietly, shared in whispers, and nearly forgotten. Until now. Because what I'm about to show you today isn't some miracle cure, it's not the latest trend, it's not a gimmick, and it doesn't come with a celebrity endorsement or a $499 price tag. It's something far more powerful, something proven. Something that can help you finally break free from the cycle of expensive treatments that never seem to work. And for the first time, it's available to regular people just like you, who are sick of watching their money disappear every time someone in the family gets a sniffle, a rash, a bad joint, or a stubborn headache that just won't quit. Because if you've ever paid hundreds of dollars for a 10-minute appointment, spent hours waiting at urgent care for a prescription you didn't really need, forked over $400 for a specialist just to be told to take ibuprofen and rest, or cried in frustration over a bill you couldn't afford for a treatment that barely worked, then what you're about to learn could change everything. This is your way out. Out of the system that was never designed to make you well. Out of the bills, the stress, the fear of getting sick because you just can't afford it. Out of the helpless feeling that comes from watching your savings vanish while your symptoms stay the same. What I'm about to share with you today could be the most important discovery you make all year. And if you use it the way I did, it could save you hundreds, even thousands of dollars over the next 12 months alone. So stick with me, because in just a moment, I'll show you exactly how I found this lost knowledge and how it helped my family in the most terrifying moment of our lives, when the system failed us and we had to find another way. Before we continue, let me tell you who I am and how it all started. My name is Dean Reynolds. I'm a 45-year-old biology teacher living just outside Memphis, Tennessee. Folks around here know how challenging it can be to keep up with healthcare costs. We've all experienced the frustration of paying far too much for things that should be accessible to everyone, like affordable remedies for minor illnesses or preventive care without breaking the bank. But we simply accepted it, telling ourselves, that's just how the system works, or maybe it'll get better next year, as we kept struggling to manage the rising costs of staying healthy. Until the spring of 2021, May 23rd, Sunday. The absolute worst day of my life. It started like any other. My daughter was playing in the living room when, out of nowhere, she stopped and looked at me. "Daddy, I feel funny." That's all she said. Then her little knees buckled, her face went pale as paper, and she collapsed like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I'll never forget the sound her body made when it hit the floor. It was soft, but somehow louder than any scream. I dropped everything, grabbed her, cradled her, shouted her name, but her eyes were rolling back. Her breathing was shallow, ragged. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. I just ran. Keys, car, tires squealing, red lights ignored, straight to the hospital, praying, begging, bargaining with God the whole way. Then came the verdict. Bacterial meningitis, a severe fast-acting infection that attacks the brain and spinal cord. Fast, deadly, brain damage, organ failure, death. And then the real horror began, because the hospital said, "We need payment, up front." No treatment, no mercy, not unless I handed over money I didn't have. This wasn't health care. This was extortion in a lab coat. The treatment was astronomically expensive and required long-term care, far beyond what my insurance would cover. I kept begging the hospital for options, payment plans, anything, but they played the same broken record over and over again. Pay up front, or there's nothing we can do. I had already been struggling financially after losing my job due to the pandemic. The recession had hit hard. My friends, who might have helped me, were in no better shape. I had some money saved up, but it wasn't nearly enough, not even close. I tried everything, took out loans, maxed out credit cards, even put my car up for sale. Somehow, I managed to gather enough to start my daughter's treatment. And thank God it worked. She got the care she needed. Slowly, she started getting better. I watched as the color returned to her face, as she finally smiled again, as I could finally hold her without fearing the worst. But the bills didn't stop coming. Every week, another envelope arrived, another impossible number I had to pay. The debt kept piling up, suffocating me. I was drowning. There was only one thing left to do. I had to sell my house. The home my grandfather had left me, the house I grew up in, filled with years of memories. It felt like I was losing everything. Jason, my neighbor and a retired Army medic who served in Afghanistan, was helping me move out. We were hauling boxes from the attic when Jason stopped, his boot nudging something behind a stack of insulation panels. "You ever open this?" he asked, brushing dust off a trunk I'd seen 100 times. I shook my head. "Nah, just Grandpa's old Army stuff." "Mind if I take a look?" I almost told him to leave it, but he was already opening the latches. Like he knew something I didn't. It was just an old trunk, dusty, heavy, forgotten in the attic. But inside was history. Old uniforms, rusted medals, a folded flag. And at the bottom, a leather-bound journal, thick and worn like it had been through hell and back. "Wait a minute," he said, flipping back to an earlier entry. This is incredible." I stepped closer. "It's just notes. My grandfather was a medic in the Korean War." He shook his head slowly. "No, these aren't just notes. This isn't just some old journal. This is legend." Turns out, my grandfather wasn't just a medic in Korea. He was the medic. What I didn't know, what no one had ever told me, was that during the Korean War, my grandfather had spent time in rural villages, not just treating soldiers, but learning from local healers. The kind who didn't rely on labs, pills, or hospital charts, but on roots, resins, rituals, and remedies passed down for centuries. Jason turned another page, his brows pulling together. "Do you realize what this means?" he said. "People today pay thousands for treatments that barely do what your grandfather was doing in the field. Hospitals charge you hundreds just to sit in the waiting room. And yet, here he was, treating soldiers, saving lives, with nothing but the knowledge in these pages." He ran his finger over a note in the margin, his mouth open like he was about to say something, then closed again. He looked shaken, "I've heard of this," he whispered. "Your grandfather. I think I've heard stories about him." I frowned. "What do you mean?" He looked up slowly, eyes glassy. "When I was deployed, there were rumors, stories whispered in the field, about a medic, just one, who didn't need supply tents or backups. A guy who used other things. Herbs, brews, salves that worked when nothing else did. Some said he was half healer, half ghost. I always figured it was just a war story, like a legend. But this," he held up the journal, "this proves it wasn't just a story. This journal, this dusty old book buried in a forgotten trunk, was a legacy. A blueprint, a field manual for healing in the harshest conditions. When there was no backup, no supply chain, no doctor down the hall, and I'd nearly thrown it away." Jason and I sat down on the attic floor like kids opening a treasure chest. The light from the window hit the pages just right. The ink was faded in spots, the handwriting cramped and careful. But the knowledge? Crystal clear. This wasn't just a stack of notes. It was a survival manual. A field-tested healer's Bible written by a man who had watched men die and figured out how to stop it with what nature gave him. Some of the recipes were unlike anything we had ever seen. The precision, the combinations of ingredients. It was clear that every remedy had been tested, refined, and perfected under extreme conditions. For example, one remedy described a powerful burn salve used by Korean villagers when medical supplies were scarce. It was made from honey locust resin, fat, and crushed lotus root. Ingredients that worked together to rapidly pull heat from the skin, prevent infection, and regenerate damaged tissue. Jason's eyes lit up when he saw it. I've seen burn treatments that cost hundreds of dollars, but this was made with nothing but what they had in nature. I flipped through more pages, finding entry after entry. Remedies for everything from respiratory infections to chronic pain, from digestive issues to skin infections, all made with simple ingredients. Things modern pharmaceutical companies had either ignored or turned into overpriced, overprocessed drugs with 100 side effects. And as I turned each page, a slow, heavy realization crept over me. This wasn't just valuable. It was life-changing. We spent hours hunched over that journal, cross-checking notes, deciphering old abbreviations, and matching remedies with the symptoms we knew all too well. All of a sudden, Jason leaned over my shoulder. His voice dropped. "Dean, bacterial meningitis. Right here." I froze. There it was. A full treatment protocol, outlined in detail. Herbs, dosages, supportive remedies to reduce brain swelling, low fever, protect the nervous system, all of it. Right there. He treated it, Jason said. Multiple times, successfully. And in that moment, a lump caught in my throat. Because if I had found this journal just a few months earlier, if I had known what was buried in the attic, covered in dust and silence, maybe I wouldn't have had to sell the house. The home my grandfather left me. The place my daughter took her first steps. Gone. But here's the thing. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. I'm just grateful she's okay. Grateful she's alive. Grateful I get to hear her laugh and fight over bedtime and run through the house like nothing ever happened. Still, there's this ache inside me. Because the answer was here, in my attic, in these pages. And I can't help but wonder, how many other people are still out there paying everything they've got for treatments that don't even work? Jason and I sat there, holding something powerful, something proven, something that had already saved lives. But we couldn't just guess, we had to know. That's when we made the decision. We needed to test it. Not on paper, not in theory. In the real world. We needed to be 100% sure that these remedies still work today, just like they had in war zones and remote villages long before hospitals were a phone call away. So we did something risky. We shared them. We went out into our community and found people, real people, who were sick of throwing money at symptoms that never went away. People battling joint pain, migraines, gut issues, rashes that never healed. People who were exhausted from throwing their hard-earned money at expensive treatments that only provided temporary relief. Many of them had spent years cycling through prescriptions, doctor visits, and costly procedures, only to find themselves stuck in the same endless loop of discomfort and medical bills. They were frustrated, they were desperate, and more importantly, they were willing to try something different. They wanted real solutions, not just another overpriced pill. They were open to natural remedies, especially if it meant taking control of their health without draining their savings. Within 2 weeks, over 270 volunteers signed up, and one of them was Carol. She was 62, living on Social Security, and couldn't even button her shirt most mornings because of arthritis. She tried everything. Creams, pills, physical therapy, nothing lasted. We gave her a simple herbal blend based on one of my grandfather's notes. Mugwort and cinnamon bark, simmered and applied daily. 3 weeks later, she called me in tears. "I danced with my grandson last night," she said. "No pain, not a twinge." That was just one story. There were hundreds. A contractor who healed his rotator cuff without surgery. A teacher whose heartburn vanished after 12 years. A diabetic who dropped their insulin needs by 70%. These weren't wishful testimonials. These were transformations. Within just a few weeks, 98% of participants reported dramatic improvements in their health. Minor wounds healed faster than ever. Joint pain disappeared without the need for expensive painkillers. Blood pressure dropped naturally. Digestion improved and heartburn vanished. Energy levels skyrocketed. And a few weeks after that, 100% of the participants shared that they had fully recovered from their ailments without a single expensive prescription. This was undeniable proof that my grandfather's remedies still work today. That's when I knew this had to be shared. If these natural remedies could save soldiers in war without costing a fortune, then why were people today going broke just to stay healthy? Why were we spending thousands on medications when my grandfather's notes held the answers for pennies on the dollar? As we pored over my grandfather's journal, something became clear. The same health problems that wore down soldiers on the battlefield are the ones that still ruin lives today, but for a different reason. Back then, war, malnutrition, and exhaustion pushed the body to its limits. Now, the culprits are sedentary lifestyles, poor diets, and stress, yet the symptoms remain eerily familiar. What's worse, the Koreans already had natural solutions. Remedies that cost pennies compared to today's expensive treatments. Americans don't need to be soldiers to suffer from joint pain, fatigue, high blood pressure, or chronic health conditions. These problems, once common on the battlefield, now quietly cripple millions of people in everyday life. But while modern medicine treats these issues with expensive prescriptions and invasive surgeries, Korean healers had already mastered the art of keeping people healthy using affordable natural remedies. You don't need to be marching through mountains with 90 pounds of gear on your back to wear your joints down. Today, millions of Americans suffer from arthritis, joint stiffness, and chronic pain. Not from war, but from years of desk jobs, bad posture, and lack of movement. Back in the war, soldiers relied on mugwort and cinnamon bark to keep their knees from locking up. These herbs acted as natural anti-inflammatory agents, improving circulation and even slowing cartilage breakdown. Today, arthritis sends thousands into costly surgeries every year, but many of them could avoid joint replacements and expensive painkillers if they knew about the same remedies that had already been keeping warriors moving pain-free well into old age. Americans today are chronically exhausted, and most don't even know why. Long commutes, stress, bad sleep, and artificial lights have left millions feeling drained, no matter how much they rest. In war, soldiers didn't have the luxury of being tired. Korean herbalists gave them Panax ginseng and ashwagandha, two powerful herbs that naturally boost energy, improve mental clarity, and regulate cortisol levels. Now, instead of balancing their stress hormones naturally, people pump their bodies with energy drinks, sugar, and caffeine, only to crash harder later. But ginseng isn't just an energy booster. It trains the body to handle stress better. Soldiers used it to survive the battlefield. Now it could help the modern worker survive the daily grind. Most Americans think heart attacks happen suddenly, but the truth is, heart disease is a slow, silent killer that builds up over decades. The soldiers who fought in Korea were under extreme stress, the kind that spikes blood pressure and damages arteries. Yet local healers had a remedy: hawthorn berry and Korean angelica root. These herbs protected their hearts, kept circulation strong, and prevented hypertension. Fast forward to today. 108 million Americans suffer from high blood pressure. Heart disease kills one person every 34 seconds in the U.S. Instead of using natural blood pressure regulators, millions are stuck on prescription meds for life. Yet Hawthorne and Angelica could have kept their hearts strong naturally before it was too late. People don't realize how much their stomach suffers under stress. Back in the war, soldiers ate poor rations, lived under constant anxiety, and often drank contaminated water, which led to severe stomach ulcers, acid reflux, and digestive problems. But the Koreans had a solution: licorice root and Baikal skullcap. Licorice root coats the stomach, protecting it from acid erosion. Baikal skullcap kills off bad gut bacteria and reduces inflammation. Today, Americans spend billions on antacids, reflux meds, and gut supplements, many of which don't even treat the root cause. But Koreans had already figured it out decades ago. Every winter, millions of Americans get sick with sinus infections, pneumonia, or chronic bronchitis. Instead of over-the-counter decongestants, Korean herbalists burned pine resin, a natural antimicrobial agent that cleared airways, opened sinuses, and fought off bacteria. They also brewed wild chrysanthemum tea, which helped reduce lung inflammation and prevented infections from spreading. Now, people spend hundreds on antibiotics and allergy meds, when a simple herbal steam could clear their lungs just as effectively. Type 2 diabetes doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow process, one that starts with years of unstable blood sugar, processed foods, and insulin resistance. Back in the 1950s, Koreans had almost no cases of diabetes. Their diet was rich in mulberry leaf and bitter melon extract, two natural ingredients that prevent blood sugar spikes, improve insulin sensitivity, and keep glucose levels stable. Now in the U.S., 37 million people have diabetes. Another 96 million have prediabetes, and most of them don't even know it. Instead of using natural blood sugar regulators, people are pushed into an endless cycle of insulin shots, expensive medications, and blood sugar crashes. The tragedy? Type 2 diabetes can often be prevented, but nobody profits from prevention. So people never hear about it. Skin issues have exploded in America. Eczema, rashes, and infections affect millions, especially as chemicals and pollutants increase in everyday products. During the war, soldiers suffered from horrific rashes, infections, and cracked skin due to constant exposure to cold, damp conditions. Korean healers treated them with plantain leaf, camellia oil, and pine pitch. Plantain leaf is a natural antiseptic that speeds up wound healing. Camellia oil is deeply moisturizing and reduces inflammation. Pine pitch protects damaged skin and prevents bacteria from spreading. Now, instead of using these simple remedies, people pay $300 plus for steroid creams, which thin the skin and make the problem worse over time. The Koreans knew better. They used what nature already provided without side effects. Each one of these remedies was time-tested, proven on the battlefield, and used for centuries before pharmaceutical companies even existed. Now, people are spending a fortune on doctor visits, endless prescriptions, and expensive treatments, when the solution has always been right there in nature. Reading my grandfather's journal made me furious. How had this knowledge been buried? Why had natural, effective, and inexpensive remedies been replaced with high-cost treatments? I knew I had to bring this back, to make sure people never had to go broke just to stay healthy. So Jason and I spent months translating, testing, and bringing the formulas up to date. We made sure that every single remedy was easy to use, affordable, and incredibly effective. And finally, after countless hours of work, we compiled everything into a single step-by-step guide that anyone, no matter their income, no matter their medical knowledge, could use to keep their family safe. And that's how Nature's Armor, the Field Healer's Bible, was born. I want you to imagine something for a moment. What if you never had to stress over the skyrocketing cost of healthcare ever again? What if you could treat common ailments, from colds, infections, and skin conditions to joint pain, high blood pressure, and digestive issues, without stepping foot into a doctor's office? Imagine never having to spend $200 on a single doctor visit, or $1,000 a month on prescription medications, or even $20 on overpriced store-bought treatments that barely work. What if you had every remedy you needed right at your fingertips, made from simple, affordable ingredients you could grow in your backyard or pick up for pennies at the store? That's exactly what this book will give you, a way out of the broken healthcare system, a way to keep yourself and your family safe without draining your wallet. After months of testing, researching, and translating my grandfather's notes, I compiled everything into a simple step-by-step guide that anyone can follow, whether you have medical experience or not. Inside you'll find over 100 plus proven, time-tested natural remedies used by soldiers, war medics, and herbal healers for centuries. Step-by-step instructions on how to prepare and use these remedies for maximum effectiveness. Everyday ingredients you can find for pennies or grow in your backyard, ensuring you're never dependent on expensive treatments again. How to build a natural first aid kit so you'll always be prepared, even in an emergency. How to make your own medical teas, tinctures, and salves that work just as well or better than store-bought alternatives. A complete guide to natural pain relief, immune support, and chronic illness prevention, helping you avoid costly doctor visits altogether, and much, much more. Let's break it down. The average American spends $800 to $1,200 per year on prescription drugs. A single urgent care visit costs $200 to $400, even for something as minor as an ear infection. Diabetes patients spend an average of $16,750 per year on treatments, money that could be saved with the right natural remedies. A single round of physical therapy for joint pain can cost up to $1,500, but the Koreans already had an herbal blend that worked just as well. Imagine what it would feel like to slash these costs without sacrificing your health. Instead of pouring money into the medical industry's bottomless pit, you'll have the knowledge to heal yourself, just like our ancestors did. If these natural remedies are so powerful, why don't more people know about them? Simple. The medical industry thrives on sick people. Every time you fill a prescription, every time you go to the doctor, every time you spend money on treatments, someone profits. Let's be real. If everyone suddenly got healthy tomorrow, Big Pharma would go bankrupt. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's capitalism. They don't profit when you're cured. They profit when you're just barely holding on. Why do you think the side effects list is longer than the benefits? Why do you think you need maintenance meds for life? It's not about healing. It's about keeping you on the leash. Every pill is a payment plan. Every refill is a subscription. And you're just a recurring revenue stream. But it doesn't have to be that way, because nature doesn't charge monthly, and your body, when given the right tools, knows how to heal itself. They just don't want you to know that, because there's no profit in prevention. But it's not too late to take back control. And that's why I've made Nature's Armor as affordable and accessible as possible. I didn't create this book to make money. I created it because I've lived the nightmare of choosing between treatment and rent. Because I've seen what happens when you're sick and broke and scared and alone. And because I believe, to my bones, that every person deserves access to real healing, no matter your bank account. That's why I'm not charging $300 or $500 like the natural health gurus do. Even though this guide could easily save you thousands in doctor visits, prescriptions, and emergency care, I'm offering it today for just $37. Because if one remedy spares you one urgent care trip, it's already paid for itself. But the real value is peace of mind. Knowing that whatever comes, cold, infection, inflammation, pain, you've got a plan, you've got tools, you've got power. But that's not all. To make sure you get the absolute most out of this guide, I'm including 2 free bonuses worth $54, but only for a limited time. Bonus number 1, the Healing Weeds Handbook. 150 medicinal wild plants that can nourish and protect you. This extensive guide shows you how to find powerful medicinal plants growing all around you in the wild. From sidewalk cracks to open fields and forgotten back roads, these healing weeds thrive where most people overlook them. And many of these are the exact same plants used in the remedies inside Nature's Armor. Now you'll know how to find them for free. You'll never have to rely on overpriced online dried-out herbal blends again, saving you even more money on medicine. Bonus number 2, disaster medicine, when help is not on the way. If modern medicine ever becomes unavailable, this guide will teach you how to treat infections, injuries, and illnesses in an emergency, using nothing but natural remedies, even if you're forced to leave the comfort of your home. Both of these bonuses are yours free when you grab your copy of Nature's Armor today. I know this book will change the way you think about healthcare forever, but I don't want you to take my word for it. That's why I'm giving you a full 60 days to go through the guide, try out the remedies, and see the savings for yourself. If, for any reason, you don't feel like this book has saved you money and improved your health, just send me an email and I'll refund every penny. No questions asked. But I have a feeling, once you start using these remedies, you'll never go back. Imagine a future where you never have to stress about the cost of medicine again, where you can treat your family with safe, effective remedies without breaking the bank. where you're never dependent on a system designed to keep you paying forever. That future starts now. Click the button below to grab your copy of Nature's Armor before this offer disappears. Don't wait until the next unexpected health crisis drains your wallet. Be prepared, be self-sufficient, and most importantly, keep more of your hard-earned money where it belongs. Because let's be honest, one trip to urgent care costs between $200 and $400 just for a 10-minute visit. A single prescription could set you back $75 to $150 or more. And a trip to the ER? You're looking at $1,500 minimum, if you're lucky. Now imagine having a book in your home that gives you the tools to treat common health issues naturally, for pennies on the dollar, without the stress, without the guesswork, and without the ongoing financial bleed. That's what Nature's Armor, the Field Healer's Bible, gives you. Over 100 plus natural battlefield-tested remedies for everything from infections and injuries to inflammation, digestion, blood pressure, and more. Step-by-step instructions anyone can follow. No medical background needed. Easy-to-find ingredients you can grow in your backyard or pick up for a few bucks. Peace of mind knowing you're no longer 100% dependent on a failing system. This isn't just a book. It's a life shift. It's the moment you stop feeling powerless every time someone in your family gets sick. It's the day you take control back. So ask yourself, what's one doctor's visit worth to you? One prescription? 1 month without surprise bills or late-night pharmacy runs? Because for just $37, this guide could save you hundreds, even thousands over the next year alone. But more importantly, it could spare you the fear, the helplessness, the gut-wrenching feeling of watching someone you love suffer, while you wonder if you can even afford the treatment. You don't have to wonder anymore. Click the Order Now button below, grab your copy of Nature's Armor, the Field Healer's Bible now, and take the first step toward true health freedom. Still here? No worries. I know that sometimes it can feel overwhelming to take that first step, and you probably have a few questions. So to help you feel fully confident in the investment you're about to make, let me take a minute or two to answer some of the most common questions I get asked right now. 1. How does this collection of natural remedies work? The remedies are based on time-tested principles that have been used for centuries to promote healing and well-being. They rely on the synergy of natural ingredients, which work together to support the body's ability to recover and strengthen itself. These are the very same principles my grandfather used in the harshest conditions, and they can work just as well in your home today. 2. What's maintenance like? There's no complicated upkeep, no refills, and no need for expensive equipment. Unlike conventional treatments that require constant purchases, these remedies rely on simple, accessible ingredients. Once you learn them, they're yours for life. 3. Are these remedies difficult to make? Not at all. When Jason and I were working through my grandfather's notes, I was adamant that everything had to be easy to follow. There's minimal effort involved, and many of these remedies take just minutes to prepare using ingredients you likely already have at home. And if you're still feeling unsure, the step-by-step instructions and clear explanations make it incredibly simple to follow along. Plus, if you ever have a question, don't forget, your investment comes with unlimited lifetime support. 4. What's included again? Inside, you'll get my comprehensive guide showing you exactly how to create and use these powerful remedies. I made this guide with an over-the-shoulder approach, so it's like I'm right there with you, walking you through every step. You'll get detailed instructions, full-color illustrations, and a complete ingredients list. Plus, your investment today includes lifetime support, which means you can reach out anytime you have a question and I'll personally respond. 5. Is there a guarantee? Yes. Once you place your order, you have a full 60 days to check out the guide and start using the remedies. Just follow the steps and you'll quickly see how effective they are. And if at any point you're unsatisfied or change your mind, just send me an email and I'll refund your entire investment. No questions asked. 6. I'm ready. How do I get started? Simply click on the Buy Now button you see below. You'll then be taken to my 100% secure checkout page where you'll enter your order details. Once you've completed your order, you'll get instant access to the members-only area where you can download everything immediately. Remember, you have a full 60-day money-back guarantee, plus unlimited lifetime support. So go ahead and take control of your health and financial freedom today by clicking the yellow button below.